One of the other big stories coming out of the weekend, Jeff, was Martin Truex Jr. announcing that 2024 will be his last full-time season in the Cup Series. He seems to be hinting a lot that he still plans to run some Xfinity races for Joe Gibbs Racing next year, but done with full-time Cup racing, which I believe his first season was 2006. After winning 2 Xfinity Series championships, he goes on to win 30-plus races in Cup. He wins the 2017 championship. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Why do you think it was time? Why was 2024? Because he'd been down this road, we know, the last 2 years where he'd been trying to decide if he wanted to keep doing this, but this time it was like, this is it.
So I think what he said in the public is 100% the truth. I don't think he's hiding anything. I don't think there's some other ulterior motive. It's just, people. I just don't think the casual fan can understand how grueling of a lifestyle it is. And now, look, it's not without reward. It's not a pity party here. Okay, it's not without reward. It's not without good pay. It's not without a lot of things that a lot of people would just be very envious of. But it is a massive sacrifice. And it I've always said, my wife knew she came second. My kids knew they came second. My family knew they came second. And, I don't deserve a Father of the Year award. I don't deserve a Husband of the Year award because I had to put everything I had into being successful. And that meant no matter what was going on, if anything with racing came up, that's what I did. And so when you do that for, a certain amount of time, when you're young and, you have partners that support you, right? That's really important. Then you just go do it. But as you age and you start to appreciate a little more of the things that you're missing. And I just think that's where Martin is. He's like, look, I'm in my 40s. I have done this for an exorbitant amount of time. I have put everything into it. And you get to the point where you don't have enough to give that it's going to take to be successful. And that's different for everybody. I wasn't talented enough to not give 110. If I gave 90, it wasn't going to work. And Martin has a way that he does what he does. And if he doesn't do it like that, he knows he's not going to be successful. And so he's smart enough to say, and most people aren't, okay? Most people don't leave this sport on their own terms. Most people get asked to leave, or they don't get a welcome back. That's the better way to say it. And Martin recognizes that if he doesn't do it at the level that it's required, he's not going to be welcome back. And he doesn't want to do it like that. He wants to be successful and win races and compete for championships. And he's not willing to sacrifice what has to be sacrificed to do that anymore. It's just that simple.
I want to go back to what you were saying earlier, because I don't want to get too personal here, but I think what you said was fascinating about your family comes second. So your wife, Kim, your kids, Paige and Harrison, how do they deal with that? How do you get through that when you just know that you're going to miss things that are very important to them because you're racing?
Honestly, I don't know. Kim never once, ever said, hey, you need to be here rather than there. She never once gave me grief about doing anything that had to do with racing. Not once. Never did she say, hey, we're on vacation. What are you doing? Because I would leave vacations and go test, or I would leave vacations and go to the shop. She never once complained about it. She never once put any pressure on me. Now, look, if I was off, she didn't want me going to hang out with the boys. She wanted me with her family, right? Rightfully so. But I don't know. She recognized early that this is what it took. And so I just never, and then so that migrated with her kids. So she didn't say to the kids, hey, your dad should be here. She would explain why I'm not there. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it works. Without her willingness to do that, that would have been very difficult. But my parents and my family and my brothers and my in-law. I mean, nobody ever put any pressure on me, and never once questioned. I mean, it's just what we did.
Certainly be a transition for Martin Truex Jr. Also a transition for Joe Gibbs Racing, which now has to fill the void of a champion shoes. Obviously, there's been some names linked to that ride. They're younger drivers. I don't want to get into specific names, but I am curious on your take, Jeff.
The truth is that, it's a difficult decision for any organization to make, because, when you do invest in a young driver, you don't really know what you're getting. I mean, you have an idea, but you don't really know until it happens, right? And so it's a little risky. Clearly investing in young drivers is very important for the future of our sport. I don't think that they would put somebody in that position that doesn't have at least some Cup experience. I think they would lean toward having more of a veteran, even though it may not be a real veteran, but someone with real racing experience that they believe they can put in a position to be more successful than they are currently being, or than they have been. Because I don't know that there's any big name free agents, right, that they could go get. So I think that's the position that Gibbs would take. But I don't know, and I think Ty has done a great job for them. I think Ty has broken that mold a little bit, but he still hadn't won, right? He still hasn't won. And even though as good as he's done, he still's not won. So I think if you're a coach, you're looking at that and saying, if I have a rookie driver and I invest in that, Ty has done as well as I could have expected, but he still hasn't won. This organization is about winning. And so with the group drivers that he has, with Ty, he's got a young driver. With Christopher, he's got a young driver. Those two guys can move well into the future and be part of that. Denny is certainly, not that he's going to retire tomorrow, but he has way less racing ahead of him than he does behind him, right? The age that he is. So there's a transition coming with Denny at some point. This transition's happened now. But I think that they'll be looking for a driver that they feel like can win races immediately, but also has growth ahead of them. Because I just don't know that what's the free agent that they could put in the car that has Cup championships, that they know that guy can win races on a consistent basis. So we'll see what he does. It's a difficult decision. You don't replace Martin Truex Jr. Like, you don't just say, okay, Martin's one of the most underrated drivers in the sport. Yeah. If you look at what he's done since 2016, no one's won more races. No one. Mm-hmm. He could have won multiple titles. He went on a stretch there and finished no worse than second. And one of those was a championship for like 5 years or so. I mean, it's nuts what he did. He set the standard. It wasn't Kyle Busch, wasn't Kevin Harvick. It wasn't. It was Martin Truex. And I mean that with all respect. I'm comparing to those guys because those are exceptionally exceptional drivers. But Martin was having more success in that section than any of those. So you don't just replace that. You hope that over time you can replace it, but it's hard to imagine that someone can just pop in there and immediately have the success that Martin's had. But there's a lot of talented drivers, and they will hire somebody that's capable of winning. And I suspect that they'll hire somebody that all of us will look and say, yep, that makes perfect sense. I don't think they're going to hire somebody that we're all like, what the hell is that? Like, I think that it'll be yep, that's a no-brainer. That was a good move.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.